Hi, I'm Linda Augsburg, Editorial Content Chief for American Patchwork and Quilting. And in this Show Me How video, brought to you by Baby Lock and the Crescendo Machine, I'm going to show you how to make this adorable little treat bag. Now, we actually are going to make 4 of them out of 2 fat quarters, and I'm going to tell you how. For the instructions for this project, go to allpeoplequilt.com/showmehow-treat-bags. Let's get started. To use your 2 fat quarters most efficiently, you're going to cut the pieces so that you can make a total of 4 gift bags. 2 of them will be the reverse color placement of the other 2. To cut your pieces, your largest piece is 6.5 by 5.5, and that's actually your lining piece. Next, you're going to cut the body pieces, which are 6.5 by 3.5, and then you're going to cut another piece for the base that's 6.5 by 2.5. In addition, each gift bag will need one 12-inch length of ribbon to make the 2 handles. Now let's get started sewing. The first step is to sew together your 6.5 by 2.5 inch and your 6.5 by 3.5 inch strips along one of the 6.5 inch sides. We're just going to sew that edge with a 1/4 inch seam. Now I'm using my 1/4 inch foot that has a nice guide on the side that helps me keep that 1/4 inch seam consistent. Now, I would press that seam to one side, and then I'm going to measure and attach my ribbon. So I'm going to cut my 12-inch ribbon into 2 6-inch pieces. And then I'm going to pin those in place, and I'm going to pin them in place 2 inches in on that top edge. And again, the second one should be 2 inches in from the side of that larger piece. You want to make sure that ribbon is flat and doesn't have a twist in it. Again, I'm just going to double check that ribbon, the 2 inches, and pin that in place. Now that I've got it pinned, I am actually going to turn my pins around. I want to have those pins on the outside because I'm going to be layering the ribbon between another layer of fabric. So now I've got my pins on the outside. I'm going to put my large 5.5 by 6.5 inch piece of fabric over that so the ribbon is sandwiched between. And again, I'm going to sew with a 1/4 inch. I'm going to sew this seam as well. So now you're going to flip that lining piece, that largest lining piece, and again, finger press that seam. At this point, you could actually take this to the iron and press both this seam and the former seam so this piece is nice and flat. You're going to repeat and make a second piece just like this for the other side of the bag. So now that I've got both pieces put together, and the handles, you can't see them, but I can feel them. Both handles are in here and aligned. We're going to pin the 2 pieces together, right sides facing, and then we're going to sew, leaving an opening in that lining piece, that larger piece, about 3 inches long. I'm going to start here and go around this first corner, down and around, and then finish this corner and come in and do a little back stitch. And then my opening will be on the inside of the bottom of the bag. Now that I've sewn all 4 sides, leaving that opening for turning, I'm going to box the corners before I turn. So, to box corners, you're going to align the 2 seams, and most of the time I'm just doing this by feel. Now, it's easier if you press, even just finger press, these seams open. So now that I've lined that seam up, and I can feel where the seam allowances and the seam are, I'm going to use one of my cutting rulers actually, which has some extra marks on it that make this so much easier. So I'm going to line up that center seam with my 1 inch line, I'm going to go down about an inch. So I want to be able to see where those seam allowances divide at the corner at the 1 inch mark. Then I'm going to line up my 45-degree line with the edge of the folded edge of the bag. And then I'm about 2 inches across. I'm just going to make a mark with a pencil. So I've changed my foot from the 1/4 inch foot to my regular foot. And I'm just going to sew right over that edge, right over that mark line. Now I'm going to make sure, I'm going to lift that foot just temporarily to make sure that my seam allowances are flat. Now that I've sewn that corner, I'm going to trim about a 1/4 inch from where I've sewn, just trimming off that extra bulk in the corner. And that's what gives you that boxed corner in the bag. So now that I've boxed all 4 corners, you can see the bag already taking shape. I'm going to turn it right side out through that opening all the way. And as I'm going, I'm going to kind of press those corners out. You can see there's the handles that we put in earlier. Pressing those corners at the other end out. And now you can either hand or machine sew the opening in the bottom closed, and then you'll tuck that inside the bag so the lining is inside and the handles are on the top edge. And if you want, you can give that top edge a little press, and there you have it, your bag's complete. So now you can see this second bag is the opposite color placement of the first bag. In all, from the 2 fat quarters that I have, I'll have 2 each in each colorway. So I'll have 2 that look like this, and I'll have 2 that look like this one. These bags are so quick to make, and they're great for, of course, Christmas, but also Easter or Halloween or any time you need to give little gifts to friends. Especially shower favors, they'd be great for that. Again, for those instructions, go to allpeoplequilt.com/showmehow treat bags. Thanks for sewing with us.